Lovely. Good. We got cues. Nice. I got this. And I don't know Susan's dad's name. See if it's on my phone. Did you see my email invite for Pesach?
Oh, I did. I'm sorry. It will be easy.
Oh.
He has success.
If you just put it in the entryway, that would be great. Lale, what's new and interesting?
Sorry?
Have you met Rabbi Yande?
No.
So Lale Odekan?
I'm really grieved, like. Nice to meet you. Yeah, we come from Israel.
Where are you from?
I'm originally from Istanbul, but I've been here for a while.
They have a lot of, Turkish friends in Israel. That's why I understand.
Yeah, yeah. And you based in Tel Aviv or
Jerusalem.
parents in Tel Aviv? Whose parents were Turkey or Jew?
So I yell at
Very, very cultural, impact. Turkish is a very cultural people.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it had a lot of influences from
Rabbi, can you give me a mic check, please?
You want a mic check. You want a mic check off this or off the remote? Test, test, test. Marriage. Testing, testing. Good. Test, test. Can you hear me? I'm live. Good. Better than the alternative. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. I can see, right, we're kind of in that stage of Shabbat. We're trying to get into Shabbat. I'm going to try that one more time. So just a little bit focus, settle in, get a prayer book, find some of the weekly announcement sheets, right? All those things that are very helpful to have in front of you. It's visual tefillah, so if you don't have a prayer book, just look up. Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat Shalom.
And I can hear the echo on the live stream. That's wonderful. So spring has officially arrived, and we are gathered as perhaps the world, at least here in Brooklyn, is turning to something a little bit flowering and warmer, even if the rest of the world doesn't feel that way. So here we gather on this final Shabbat in the month of March, and our friend, my colleague, Rabbi Ezra Yande from Kiryat HaYovel, from Kilat HaDror, our sister congregation in Jerusalem, joins us once again. Give us a little bit of an update on what is happening with his community in Jerusalem, Reform Judaism in Israel, and all manner of things. Ezzy, it's nice to have you back in the sanctuary. Welcome. Ezzy has actually been hanging out. I've been in London with Alex for the week, but Ezzy has been taking care of Evie and Winston, and so kind of trading places a little bit. And Alex and I landed at 2 p.m. today, so I don't know whether I'm coming or going or what time zone I'm quite in. So I'm going to rely on the cantor and Miriam to keep me honest and staying focused. I think it's time for Kabbalah Shabbat and Ma'ariv. And I'm thrilled that Violet Kopp is in the sanctuary. I'm going to invite her and her mom, Nancy Cohen, to come on up for the kindling of Shabbat lights on page 2. Oh, hang on. Hang on. There we go. Okay.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kishanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu Lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, who hallows us with mitzvot, commanding us to kindle the light of Shabbat.
Amen.
Amen.
Thank you. We salute Violet in the very important and difficult work she has been doing on collegiate campus at Tufts, representing the voice of progressive Zionism, and it's thrilling to have her in her home sanctuary with us tonight. We are going to turn ahead to Kabbalah Shabbat as we start with a reading on page 9, and we read responsively right up on the wall. There are days, too many, when we seek things for ourselves and measure our failure by what we do not gain. On Shabbat, we seek not to acquire, but to share. There are days, too many, when we exploit nature as if it were a horn of plenty that can never be exhausted. On Shabbat, we stand and wonder before the mystery of creation. And there are days when we act as if we cared nothing for the rights of others. On Shabbat, we remember that justice is our duty and a better world our goal. So we embrace Shabbat, day of rest, day of wonder, day of peace. We're going to join with the singing of Yismechu HaShamayim. You'll find the bottom of the second Psalm for Kabbalah Shabbat, Psalm 96, page 13, or right up on the wall.
Yismechu HaShamayim v'tagel tagel haaretz. Yismechu HaShamayim v'tagel tagel haaretz. Yiram hayam ulo, yiram hayam ulo, yiram hayam ulo, yiram hayam ulo. Yismechu HaShamayim v'tagel tagel haaretz. Yismechu HaShamayim v'tagel tagel haaretz.
Let the heavens rejoice and the earth exult. Let the sea and all within it thunder in joy. We're going to turn ahead to the mystical composition of Lecha Dodi, which each week I remind us comes to instruct that Shabbat is not merely sacred time. It is the embodiment, the personification of Shabbat. The beloved, the loved one, friend who returns each and every week, a taste of what may yet come, a perfection not yet achieved, but a foretaste that returns each and every week. We invite Shabbat embodied as bride and queen, groom and king, friend, beloved, into our home with invitation of Lecha Dodi. As always, when we reach the last stanza, we'll rise, face the entryway at that time, and invite Shabbat to enter and join with us. Pages 20 and 21.
Lecha Dodi likrat kalai yaladai 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 b'nei Shabbat nekavela ay ay ay. Lecha Dodi likrat kalai yaladai 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 b'nei Shabbat nekavela ay ay. Shamar v'zachor b'dibur echad hishmi'anu el hameyuchad. Adonai echad u'shemo echad l'shem u'tiferet v'litchila. Ay lecha dodi likrat kalai yalalai 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 b'nei Shabbat nekavela. Ay lecha dodi likrat kalai yalalai 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 b'nei Shabbat nekavela. Likrat Shabbat lechvenelcha ki hi mekor habracha meirosh mikedem nesucha sof maaseh b'machshavat achila. Ay lecha dodi likrat kalai yalalai 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 b'nei Shabbat nekavela. Lecha dodi likrat kalai yalalai 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 b'nei Shabbat nekavela. Hitoreri hitoreri ki ba'orech umi uri uri לחדדי לקראת קלה יללה 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 בני שבת נקבלה לילה לילה לחדדי לקראת קלה יללה 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 בני שבת
Verse 9.
נקבלה
Shalom, we face the entry.
בואי בשלום עטרת בנה גם בשמחה ובצהלה תוך אמוני עם סגולה בואי חלה בואי חלה אי לחדדי לקראת קלה יללה 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 בני שבת נקבלה אי די די לחדדי לקראת קלה יללה 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 בני שבת נקבלה.
Now that we're standing, I'm going to keep us standing. We're still getting used to being back in person. I know. It's going to be, once the masks are off, another week, I think, it'll get easier. I promise. All the routines will get easier. So having arisen to welcome Shabbat, I like to say we can do no less than also take a moment to welcome one another. So let's take these moments while we are standing, whether at home or here in body and or spirit, to reach out and greet someone next to us and make a new acquaintance in front or beyond. Shabbat Shalom. How are you doing?
We'll start with a nigun so you can learn the melody first. La 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 You almost have it. Maybe one more time. La 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 ya la 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 tov lehodot l'Adonai, tov lehodot l'Adonai, ulezamer l'shimcha elyon, tov lehodot l'Adonai, tov lehodot l'Adonai, tov lehodot l'Adonai, ulezamer l'shimcha elyon, tov lehodot l'Adonai, lehagid baboker chasdecha, lehagid baboker chasdecha, ואמונתך בלילות, ואמונתך בלילות, טוב להודות לאדוני, טוב להודות לאדוני, טוב להודות לאדוני, ולזמר לשמך עליון, טוב להודות לאדוני. יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה, בעלמא דברי חירותי וימליך מלכותי, בחייך וביומך ובחיי דכל בית ישראל, בגלה ובזמן קריב ויאמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מבורך לעולם עולם מעל מאיה, יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל, שמי לקודשה בריחו לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבעתה ונחמתה, דמירן בעלמא ויאמרו אמן. ברכו את אדוני המבורך, המבורך לעולם. Amen.
Ahavat Olam, page 32, we join in singing with the cantor.
Ahavat Olam Beit Yisrael Amcha ahavta Amcha ahavta Torah u'mitzvot Chukim u'mishpatim Atanu limadeta Atanu limadeta Al kein Adonai Eloheinu b'shachveinu uvkomeinu nasiach b'chukecha ונשמח בדברי תורתך ובמצוותיך לעולם ועד כי הם חיינו ואורך ימינו ובהם נגע יומם ולילה נגע יומם ולילה ואהבתך אל תסיר ממנו לעולמים ברוך אתה אדוני אוהב עמו ישראל אוהב עמו ישראל שמו ישראל אדוני אלוהינו אדוני אחד ברוך שם כבוד מלכותו לעולם ועד ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ושוכבך ובקומך וקשתם לאות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובישעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים אני אדוני אלוהיכם אדוני אלוהיכם אמת. כמוך באלים אדוני מי כמוך נדר בקודש נורא תהילות ספר לב מלכותך ראו בניך בקי הים לפני משה ומרים זילי אנו ואמרו אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד ונאמר כי פדה אדוני את יעקב וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו ברוך אתה אדוני גאל ישראל.
Page 42, or right up on the wall, the words of Kashrut, asking that as we lie down this evening, we might be restored simply within, our souls refreshed, our bodies renewed, so that the world around us might inch toward the world more at peace.
השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום והעמידנו שומרנו לחיים ושמור צאתנו ובואנו לחיים ולשלום מעתה ועד עולם. ברוך אתה אדוני אדוני הפורש סוכת שלום אדוני עלינו ועל כל עמו ישראל ועל ירושלים אמן 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 אמן
Page 44, as we do on each Shabbat Eve, we quote from Exodus 31, the words of the Shamru. I want to also point out the meditative, the Kavanah from Achad Ha'am. More than the Jewish people has kept Shabbat, perhaps it's Shabbat that has kept the Jewish people. So a reminder of the power of our observance for ourselves and for the perpetuation of our people and its mission. We join together with the cantor, 44, right up on the wall.
ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לא לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים את הארץ וביום השביעי שבת ויהי נפש ביני ושומרו בני ישראל את השבת, את השבת לא לעשות, את השבת לדורותם, ברית עולם, ברית עולם.
We come to Tefillah, the worship prayers thrice a day of our people. Page 46, so right up on the screen as I invite you to rise in body and or spirit as you are able.
Adonai שפתי תפתח ופי אגיד תהילתך. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu ve'Elohei avoteinu ve'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, ve'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, ve'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, Elion, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, וקונה הכל, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיה הכל אתה רב להושיע, משיב הרוח ומוריד הגשם, מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיה הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות, ומי דומה לך, מלך ממית ומחיה, ומצמיח ישועה. ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל, ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיה הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלה. ברוך אתה אדוני, האל הקדוש.
I invite those whose custom it is to remain standing, if you'd like to do so. For those whose custom is to have a seat, I invite you to do so as well. As we continue through Tefillah, we are on page 55, or right up on the screen as we join together. May these hours of rest and renewal open our hearts to joy and our minds to truth. May all who struggle find rest on this day. May all who suffer find solace. May all who hurt find healing on this day. May all who despair find purpose. May all who hunger find fulfillment on this day. And may this day fulfill its promise. Baruch atah Adonai Mikadesh HaShabbat. Page 57 together. Ever present one, may we, your people Israel, be worthy in our deeds and our prayer, wherever we live, wherever we seek you. In this land, in Zion restored, in all lands, you are our God, whom alone we serve in reverence. Baruch atah Adonai, shotecha levadecha b'yirah na'avod. Together on 59, God of goodness, we give thanks for the gift of life, wonder beyond words, for the awareness of solar light within, for the world around us so filled with beauty, for the richness of the earth, which day by day sustains us. For all these and more, we offer thanks. Baruch atah Adonai, Hatov Shimcha ulecha na'eh lehodot. And finally, the prayer for peace, Hebrew, Shalom Rav, at the top of page 60, or right up on the screen.
Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Ki ata hu melech adon lechol hashalom. Ki ata lechol hashalom. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. V'tov be'einecha levarech et Amcha Yisrael bechol עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. שלום רב על ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. שלום רב על ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. תשים לעולם. תשים לעולם.
Sovereign of all nations, we offer our prayers tonight for the people of the Ukraine and for all peace-loving nations and peoples throughout the world. As Jews, we have watched as tyrants and despots have arisen in every generation of our people's history, and we had hoped that humanity had at long last renounced its willingness to engage in murderous bloodshed of innocents to resolve disputes and claims. So tonight, O God, we turn to you again. Hear our prayer and inspire us to action. Shelter the innocent and their defenders from the hands of those who have no regard for the sacredness of human life, nor the right of all human beings to live freely. Guide our country's leaders and the leaders of nations throughout the world to be resolute, not only in word, but also in action. Let the community of nations stand together in solidarity and in sacrifice, for we know and have learned that defending liberty always comes at a cost. O God, offer us a vision not merely of a perfect peace in a far-off future, but also a resolution of this crisis, this war, in this time. Incline the hearts of all your children toward peace and reconciliation, and bless them with the wisdom, vision, and perseverance needed to bring an end to this vicious war and to restore peace to the region. Almighty God, strengthen the hands of those who pursue peace and not war. Bring harmony where there is hostility, relief where there is pain, and hope where there is despair. Restore our hopes, O God, and grant us resolve to turn our prayers into deeds, that nation shall not lift up sword against nation, and shall never again need to prepare for war. Baruch atah Adonai, hamivarech et amo Yisrael v'chol ha'amim b'shalom. We take these moments now for our silent prayer. You can find the traditional text on page 62, or perhaps a clean slate to inspire your own words.
עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו. שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל יושבי תבל ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל יושבי תבל ואמרו
Shabbat Shalom. So I think at this point, Rabbi Ezra Yande, the rabbi of our sister congregation in Kiryat Yovel in Jerusalem at Kehilat Dror in Jerusalem, does not probably need an introduction, as he has been here. We had a little COVID interlude. In fact, I think the last time I saw you face to face, maybe Deb and I were in Jerusalem visiting. Right before COVID struck, and then we had to go get the kids at the airport because they sent them back from Israel. But I think that Ezzy is a familiar face in perhaps a part of Jerusalem that's a little bit less familiar to some. But it's always really a pleasure. We have had the privilege of being part of the communities that support, I don't want to say our fledgling reform movement, because the truth of the matter is the reform movement is very well established in the state of Israel, and our message is getting out there. There are, of course, a lot of structural issues that make it, for those who've taken any of the Israel classes I've offered, that make it a little bit of a challenge. So I'll stop talking and invite Rabbi Yande to come on up and share an update with us. Welcome, Shalom Aleichem. Bakasha. Right into them. There's your mic. It's live and active.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
It's wonderful to be here and to pray with you. You know, that doesn't matter where you are. When you pray, you're home. And this is really something that helps us understand the word makom. We know that makom, a place, is one of the names of God. And we feel in place when we pray. Doesn't matter where we are in the world, we're together, we're home. So thank you for this opportunity to pray with you. This weekly portion is Parashat Mini. And Parashat Mini talks mainly about the laws of Kashrut. And that reminded me of what happened when I was about 8 or 9. When I was 8, my father took me to the States. My father is originally from Brooklyn. And when he took me to the States, before we left, he said, you know, Ezzy, you have to know that when we're in the States, we're not going to be able to eat everything. You know, we're going to go into places, we might have a tuna fish sandwich, because, you know, the places in the States are not kosher. And that was a shock for me. As a child that grew up in Israel, I was sure that, you know, everybody's like me. And I was sure that, you know, eating kosher is an ethical thing that every person follows. So I was even more in a shock when he told me that some of my family members don't even keep kashrut. And those were the years of Camp David, okay, of the peace agreement with Egypt, and you know, President Carter, and everything, you know, was very exciting, and it also, just made the feeling that we're the center of the world more real. And I was sure that, everything happens in the shadow of God, and we are really the center of the world, and everybody's like us. So when he continued on and spoke about things, I was so much, in a shock. And then I looked at him, and he said, Abba, you want to tell me that President Carter doesn't keep kosher? And I always tell this story when, we have this experience of sharing our first Jewish memories. Because for me, as a child that grew up in Israel, Judaism was life, the way that I saw it as a little kid. But realizing that we are a minority in life, in the world, was really a big shock for me. And this is really also something that helped me understand that this is one of the ways that I define myself. And it's very, very central concerning being Jewish. We know that in Hebrew, the word for defining is hagdara. And the word hagdara, definition, has the word gader in it. And that means that you define yourself by what you do or don't do, but you draw a fence around you. And that's a physical definition of who you are. So concerning the laws of Kashrut, when you choose how you behave, it's not something that has to do with ethics, okay? I don't think that the laws of Kashrut are ethical. It's not more ethical to eat a cow than to eat a pig. But those are just chukim. Those are things that really define who we are, but by how we behave. And everybody draws the line in a different place. For example, I keep kosher, but I do eat vegetarian and dairy things in unkosher places, okay? Some people, keep kosher style. Some people will not go into unkosher restaurants, and that really defines who they are in a very, very physical way. How much do they mingle with the outer society? Where do they draw the line? And it's very, very meaningful concerning the way you live your life. So, it helps us understand that we define our Jewish identity in physical ways and not just in ideological ways, okay? And this is something very, very real when you're in the States, but not only in the States, because in Israel there are quite a few places that are not kosher as well. And this also, I remember that when I was here a long time ago, Harav, the one that talks about, the alternative kosher, what's his name again? He spoke over here. Aaron, right, spoke over here, because of course, the laws of kashrut in Israel and everything that goes on is also a political thing, right? Do you follow only the kashrut of the rabbinate, or do you choose dafka to eat in places that are not, supervised by the rabbinate? Those are all very, very meaningful questions that really define who you are. And the definition, this time is not about how you see or understand things, it's about what you choose to do or not to do, even if that is not something that is necessarily ethical, but it's just a law. It's just the way you live your life. You know that in Judaism we have chukim, and those are laws that you follow because they define who you are and not because of ethical reasons. And then there are mishpatim, commandments that have to do with, meaning, that there is a certain cause behind them, like honoring your parents or treating your friend in an honorable way. So there are mishpatim, laws that are based upon, a certain cause or a certain value. And then there are chukim, laws that define who you are by what you do or do not do, and one of them is kashrut. So in Israel, of course, we define our Jewish identity in different ways. And when I met the kids in religious school just 2 days ago, and I came here. I didn't know what I'm going to speak about because I wanted to know which questions would be raised. And it was very, very interesting that the topic that we spoke about, and that came from the students, is, what is a Jewish state? How do you define a Jewish state? And we spoke about the law of return. And again, in Israel, the Jewish homeland, you need to define, who can be a citizen. And under the law of return, as you know, there is a legal definition of being Jewish, which is not necessarily the definition by Jewish law. And that is, if you have a Jewish grandparent, doesn't matter if it's maternal or paternal, you are eligible for immediate Israeli citizenship under the law of return. And we know that in the reform movement in the States, there is an acceptance of the patrilineal descent. And that means that you are a Jew not only if you have a Jewish mother, but also if you have a Jewish father. That is actually something that is not accepted by the Israeli reform movement. So there are some differences. And this is also a very important question today, because as you know, we are dealing with a war in the world. And we are a people that really suffered, and we were refugees. And now it's our turn to accept these refugees. And these people, some of them might be eligible for an Israeli citizenship under the law of return, but some of them are not. Now, it's not that we have waves of refugees, of Ukrainian refugees in Israel. Most of the refugees that come to Israel have family members in Israel, because Europe is much more appealing for them, okay? They do not necessarily want to come to Israel. They have better places to go to, or closer places to go to. But there are some people that come to Israel, and then there's a question, what do we do? And you guys, I'm sure you guys heard about it, and there are different voices of what should be done. And of course, the reform movement in Israel supports, the fact that we should, accept all of them because they are refugees, and we are a people that, all of us were refugees at one point of time. And this is our obligation. This is what we stand for. And it's very, very interesting because the whole question of, identity, Jewish identity in Israel, is a legal question as well, as you guys know. And in Israel, we have an ID card. In the States, you don't have one. But in Israel, everybody has an ID card. And in the ID card, around 25 years ago or so, there was also a mention of nationality. What is your nationality? Because we know that Judaism is not only a faith, it is a people, and it's a nationality. And back then, it said that your nationality is Jewish or your nationality is Muslim, which is an interesting thing because we view our religion as nationality. Doesn't mean that the Arabs might view their nationality as Muslim, or the Christians might view their nationality as Christian, but that was what was written in the ID card. And it was like that because we do live in a Jewish homeland. Judaism is our nationality. But around 25 years ago, there was someone that converted in the States, a Reform conversion. And this was not accepted by the rabbinate, but they appealed to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court, decided that it should be eligible, and this woman should be, written as a Jew by nationality, because this is what they decided as the right thing to do. When the Supreme Court decided that, then the politicians, and I think it was Deri from Shas, said, you know what, forget about the whole nationality thing. We're just going to drop it, okay? So from then on, just because they didn't want this person to be written as a Jew in the ID card. This really changed the whole thing. So for the past 20 years or so, there's no nationality in the ID card, which is actually a much better thing. This also, makes the whole identity question a very, very interesting question in Israel. What is our identity? What are we obligated to do? And how do we define ourselves as a Jewish people in Israel is something that we think about, something that we are busy with in Israel, but it's also something that all of the Jewish people are busy with, okay? How do we define ourselves Jewishly? What do we hold on to in order to really define who we are, in order to worry about a better future? What do we do or not do in order to really hold on to our identity and worry or work for a better future? And I think that this parasha that talks about definitions that are actually physical, because it's kashrut, is something that challenges us. It's something that, helps us think about what do we do or not do in order for us to maintain our identity. And when I come here and I think about the connections that we have with each other, the identity question is very, very strong. We see, as you guys know, and Israel sees in general, the whole Jewish world as part of our land. It's a homeland for the Jewish people. Therefore, we are not only concerned with the Jews that are living in Israel. The establishment of the land has to do with the Jewish people as a whole. And a lot of things that are done by the Jewish people all over the world can determine what's happening in Israel. For example, as I said, the issue with the woman that was converted by the Reform rabbi and came from the States eventually influenced Israel in such a way that now, the Israeli identity legally is not, something that mentions which faith you follow, okay? And this was something that was actually shaped by the American Jewish community in a way. And there's a lot, and there are, many changes and many important things that are decided in Israel by the Jews. Of course, America is the other big center of the Jewish world. And a lot of the decisions that are made through the Reform movement in Israel are made by the Jewish community, mainly in the United States. So there is a lot of influence that really define us as a Jewish people and define our Jewish homeland. And this is really something that is happening. In Israel today, because of the work that we do together, even though it's not something that is very, very known, it's not something that, everybody would think, we actually can convert people in Israel by the Reform movement. And this is something that is accepted by the Ministry of Interior. All of these things happen because of the work that we do together. And it's very, very important for me to come and say that and help all of us understand that we are making a big difference and we are doing it together. And, I can talk about my own community that I did talk about already beforehand, but this is also an example of an area in Jerusalem that is very diverse. But in this diversity now, does not only include a Haredi Jewish community and a secular Jewish community, it includes a Reformed Jewish community as well. As part of the migvan, this is the word I asked you about before, as part of the colorfulness of the neighborhood, and this is also the colorfulness of Israel as a whole. So in general, what I want to say, and what I always say when I come here, is that we really see our community as a community that looks at you for partnership. The same way that Israel looks towards the Jewish people all over the world as people that are partners, as people that are not quiet partners. You guys are not just sitting here hearing what's going on in Israel and feeling despair. You guys are making an influence, and we are doing it together because we are one community. And we want to invite you to always be a part of the home that we are creating. Be part of the makom. And this is really what we started with. When we pray, we're in the same place. When we work for a better future, for a better Israel, we are in the same place, and we are doing it together. So please, I hope that you can hear this invitation for us to continue to do important work together. This invitation to a home that sees you as members. And I hope that you guys can come and visit us in Israel, in Jerusalem, because we really feel that what we're doing is something that impacts all of us as a Jewish world, and of course makes this Jewish homeland a place that we can really feel that helps us to create a better world. Create a home that all of us can be proud of, that all of us can feel that is ours. Those are big words, but I hope that you guys understood that we are sincere, and we do know that our work does make a difference, and you are very, very important to us. I have some pamphlets over there that have to do with Kihilat Dror. By the way, Dror means liberty or freedom. So literally, the name translates to the Free Synagogue of Jerusalem. And this is very, very important to us because we work for a Jerusalem that is liberal, that is colorful, that does allow, the message that there is more than one way to be Jewish. Dafka in Yerushalayim Ir HaKodesh. So please take these pamphlets, consider joining us so we continue to do wonderful and important things together. Toda Rabba.
Thank you, Rabbi Yande. So I want to, before we have a chance, you'll get to talk with Ezzy at the Kiddush, but I do want to say a few things. For many, I grew up, my grandfather kept a kosher home, and you know that Deb keeps a kosher home, even if no one in the house other than me keeps kosher. But we do keep a kosher house. My grandfather used to say, what goes into your mouth should be kosher, and what comes out of your mouth should be kosher, which was my, right? And I think for many Reform Jews in America, where we have a history of Kashrut having been abrogated by the earliest Reform movement and then re-embraced as an option of Jewish life, we sometimes say, well, but we don't keep kosher, but and yet, in fact, yes, we identify Jewishly through what we eat. Passover's coming, isn't it? And how many people here are going to go through the process of making sure they have foods that identify them as members of the community during Pesach? So think about that. As much as you may, I know our community well enough. We have a few people in here who actually keep kosher. But I know there are people who say, but kashrut's not my thing. That's fine. But the truth is, and tomorrow we're going to look through this, there are numbers of elements of what we consume that define us as members of this community. And that ability to have options, to have not a government legislated definition of who is a Jew, right? So Rabbi Yande was reminding us, Rabbi Aaron Leibovich came and he said, look, if I'm a baker in Jerusalem and my family's been here for 15 generations, I have to pay some guy whose grandfather came from Poland to certify that my kitchen, which is older than his family's been here, that my kitchen is kosher when my family's been baking bread in Jerusalem since the 1400s. So Aaron came and we were very thrilled to hear him. All of these elements are so important to this ongoing definition and redefinition. I'm so glad that Rabbi Yande was able to meet with our religious school students because of this dialogue, which is this two-way dialogue between Israeli Jews and American Jews. And I'm going to say this, the last time I was at Kilat Dror, the Free Synagogue of Jerusalem, that's cute, I like that. I have to tell you how liberal synagogues, progressive synagogues are different, whether they're here or they're there. You can tell the moment you walk in by the diversity of the people who are attracted and the fact that the doors are open and inviting to people. And Rabbi Yande's congregation, in the same way that that's our motto here, you're interested, come on in, we welcome you as you are. Be nothing other than as you are. That's your congregation as well. And I have to say that's not true throughout the Jewish world. So that's why we are partnered together. Because at the end of the day, we represent a stream and a tradition within Jewish life that says, you're interested? Wow, praiseworthy. Come on in, let's meet you. So I hope we will travel. As a community, as a congregation, we're sending the 9th grade. We just need a few more people to put the forms in, but we are sending the 9th grade after a 2-year hiatus to Jerusalem in May. That is our plan, and I hope we'll have a congregational trip the year after. Okay. Our thoughts and our prayers turn to those in need of blessing and healing. Hopefully I can find that list. Here we go. And we call to mind on this Shabbat evening for blessing and healing Lori Blum, Gloria Sancho, Jenny St. George, Hava Gittel bat Frida, Yonah Chaya bat Miriam, Ruth bat Binyamin Vakava, Steve Browning, Yonah Tevye ben Label Begitahenya, Renee Fishzone, Moshe ben Leah, Nancy Lazar, Delroy Aline, Max Estroff, Kaika bat Freda Chaim, Kim Petchek, Peggy Einhorn, Bruce Shapiro Nygren, Eleanor Shapiro Nygren, Bela Rivka bat Shmuel Pesach Esther, Susan Sonkin, David Stephen Cohen, Peter Hort, Ken Kallman Cohen, Christy Frank, Sally Sorbello, Vlada Rusev, and Nick Boyer. If there are other names you would like to share, whether for something modest, minor, modest, or major, blessing and or healing, I invite you to share those names as my hand comes across the congregation.
מי שברוך אבותינו מכל הברכה לאמותינו. May the source of strength, oh bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Mi sheberochi מכל הברכה לאבותינו. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
Katie, he wrote, so may it be God's will. We turn ahead in the prayer book, pages 258 to 259, or simply up on the screen as we join together in prayers for our nation and for the state of Israel. Together, O guardian of life and liberty, may our nation always merit your protection. Grant our leaders wisdom and forbearance. May they govern with justice and compassion. Help us all to appreciate one another and to respect the many ways that we may serve you. May our homes be safe from affliction and strife, and our country sound in body and spirit. Amen. O Heavenly One, protector and redeemer of Israel, bless the state of Israel, which marks the dawning of hope for all who seek peace. Shield it beneath the wings of your love. Spread over it the canopy of your peace. Send your light and truth to all who lead and advise, guiding them with your good counsel. Strengthen the hands of those who defend our holy land. Grant them deliverance and adorn them in a mantle of victory. Establish peace in the land and fullness of joy for all who dwell there. Amen. Our concluding prayers, Aleinu, you can find on page 283. I invite you again at this time to rise in body and or spirit as you are able. Page 283.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצא בראשית, שהוא שם חלקנו לייחד את שמו, וגורלנו להמליך מלכותו. ואנחנו קוראים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא, שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסד הארץ, ומושב יקרו בשמיים ממעל, ושכינתו זו בגבהי מרמים. הוא אלוהינו אין עוד, אמת מלכנו אפס זולתו, ככתוב בתורתו, וידעת היום בהשבות אל לבביך, כי אדוני הוא אלוהים בשמיים ממעל, ועל הארץ מתחת אין עוד. ונאמר, והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד.
There are stars up above, so far away, we only see their light long, long after the star itself is gone. And so it is with people that we've loved. Their memories keep shining ever brightly, though their time with us is done. But the stars that light up the darkest night, these are the lights that guide us. We call to mind these recent passings in our community in the Shloshim in the last 30 days. Passing of Darren, help me again. Lytle. Darren Lytle, cousin of our grooms and of the cantor and her family. Passing of Alan Lieboff, the father of Susan Lieboff, who will be laid. Susan's dad reached a ripe age of 96 and will be buried on Monday. We'll have more information. And the passing of Baruch Shmuel Bar Alexander, the uncle of Deborah Baru. We also call to mind those whose yahrzeit falls at this season of the year. Jackie Micah Stavis, am I pronouncing that correctly? Thank you. We're called by Jake and Sue and Matt and Steve Gold. Shirley Maripol, recalled by Neil Maripol. Gertrude Eisenberg, recalled by Miriam Baisley. Herbert Heller, recalled by Lindsay Engler. Irving Leibowitz, recalled by Wendy Leibowitz. Eleanor Vogel, recalled by Bob Vogel. Paul Fink, recalled by Rachel Schwan. I apologize for mispronouncing that, Rachel. The passing of Philip Bernstein at this season, recalled by Alan Bernstein. Erwin Gedould, recalled by John Herzog. Jewel B. Isaacson, recalled by Phyllis Isaacson. Jonathan Jacob, recalled by Monica Elias. Dr. Lloyd J. Terran, recalled by Sharon Nellis. Hyman Friedman, recalled by Josh Witz. Louis Stupnick, recalled by Nina Epstein. Irving Pollock, recalled by the congregational community. Ira Lawrence Slade, recalled by Robin Slade, Eddie Gabay, Jesse and family. Jack Starkman, recalled by Phyllis Starkman. Frank Karakapa, recalled by Camille Gertler. Rosalie Steinberg, recalled by Peter Steinberg. Rose Lieb Katowitz, recalled by Miriam Katowitz. Jackie Emile Dubois, recalled by Jacques Emile Dubois, recalled by Barbara Chardin. M. Philip Freed, recalled by Barbara Lehrman Gollum. And Irving Kalsman, recalled by John Levy. Bernice Horowitz, recalled by Sarah Horowitz. Arthur Schuster, recalled by Sarah Sobel. Irving Ravid, recalled by Michelle Ravid. And Aline Nicholas, recalled by Ayat Singer. If I have inadvertently mispronounced any of these names, or if I have failed to share aloud the name of a loved one who you are reciting Kaddish for tonight, I want to invite you to, I apologize if there are names that have fallen off the list. Please do share those names as my hand comes across the congregation. I am sorry, Miriam. I don't know what's happened. Julio's memory for blessing, recalled by Miriam and the entire congregation. Gaston's name should be here as well. I apologize. Zecher Tzadik Livracha. May their memories be for blessing. We sanctify their names and memories even as we sanctify God's name and pray for the coming of God's realm. The words of Kaddish Yatom you'll find up on the wall or on page 294. Page 294. We join together as a community. Yit Gadal v'yit Kadash Shemei Rabbah v'yalma divrach chirutei v'yamlich malchutei. V'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael v'agala u'vizman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei Shmei Rabba mevarach le'olam l'almei almaya yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnasei v'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal Shemei d'kudsha b'richu le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata Damiran bi'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya v'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Osei shalom b'mromav uyasei shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. May the source of peace on high cause peace to descend upon us, upon all Israel, upon our entire world. And let us all say, Amen.
Oseh shalom bimromav, uyaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imru amen. Yaseh shalom shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael.
V'imru.
Amen.
please be seated, everyone. And again, my apologies we'll be improving the technology in the organization. It is my pleasure to call on the president of our congregation, Marcia Bellows, to deliver this evening's announcements.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat Shalom.
Thank you to Rabbi Lip, Cantor Elad, and Miriam for the leadership of this wonderful service, and welcome to Rabbi Yande. I do believe that the women's trip to Israel in 2014, Karen and Sue, maybe you can remind me, we celebrated Shabbat at your synagogue, and it's a lovely synagogue, and maybe one day we'll have an adult trip to Israel, a BHS trip. We have a few announcements. 9:30 is Havara in the library or on Zoom. Rabbi Lip is leading that. The other special Shabbat weekend is April 7th, 8th, and 9th, when Rabbi David Saperstein, the senior advisor for policy and strategy at the Religious Action Center, will share a presentation on the 7th here in the sanctuary. On the 8th, he will deliver a sermon on the Bima, and on Saturday, the 9th, he will participate in a lunch and learn, a noon lunch and learn. So you can register for one or all of these events on our website. We also have a Shabbat Bayahad. The third grade is leading services next Friday. Our Women's Seder is on Sunday, April 3rd, led by Cantor Elad. Also, the Cantor has a new course, a music course, When Words Alone Fail, Music in the Shoah. The classes will meet at 7 p.m., I guess, starting on this Tuesday. The Bhs Summer Camp is accepting applications. The Teen Israel trip has a few spots left. Katie Bryan can answer any questions. And finally, we are partnering with the Catholic Charities of New York to support local refugees and asylees. Donations of toiletries can be dropped off in the ONAG room. And then check your website to see how we can assist those in Ukraine and for some wonderful social action opportunities. So Shabbat Shalom, everyone. That's all.
Thank you, Marcia. I'm going to add a few words. One is I've been asked, especially as well on the live stream, anyone who has speaking ability in Russian or Ukrainian, and there are a few people in our congregation who do, if you are interested in, if you have that skill set and you would be interested in traveling to the borders and helping with refugees, you can do that at no cost. Reach out to me. And I will connect you with the various agencies that are looking, in fact, for people with that skill set, especially if you have a background in medicine, therapist, or really a lot of fields. If you are a competent, you don't have to read or write, if you're a competent Russian or Ukrainian speaker, or Polish, or a number of the other languages in the surrounding countries, and that is something, and you're capable of traveling over there and all of that, let me know. Reach out to me with a phone call or an email, because that skill set is deeply desired right now. We have a lot of people traveling, but the skill set we really need are the people who can translate back and forth. I will be on tomorrow for Chavurah. I do want to say, Lynn, yes, I see your hand.
There's nothing to sign up for the Cantor's new class.
You should be able to go.
I know, but he doesn't say to sign up, that's all.
Oh, please, here, I'm going to make it easy. Lynn, please sign up for the Cantor's class. She would love if you would sign up for her class.
Or you can just email me. Make it easy.
So as much as we do love when people just drop in on us, it's so much better if you would sign up. It helps us have some idea of who's coming. There's a lot going on in these months. I'm going to make a plug for Rabbi Saperstein's Thursday evening presentation. How many recovering JDs are in the congregation, Juris Doctorates? There are a few JDs in the congregation. So invite your friends. This is a remarkable, David is an attorney as well as a rabbi, and he's going to be talking about the history of Jewish lawyers in the civil rights movement. And that connection, and I think you're going to find it extraordinary. So please do. That's Thursday evening, and it is open to the community. I believe it's going to be broadcast. I'm not sure how it's going to be broadcast, whether it's going to be live stream or Zoom. Those details will get worked out in the next week. And I do not know if it's going to be recorded yet. That will also get worked out in the next week. But minimally, I do believe we'll at least be broadcasting, if nothing else. The rest depends on permissions. So, closing song.
Adon
Adon Olam, yes. Adon Olam. Page 321. And right after Adon Olam, we're going to make Kiddush out in the reception room.
Adon Olam, Asher Malach, B'terem Kol Yetzir Nivra, Leit Nasa, V'chefza Kol, Azai Melech Shemo Nikra, Ve'acharei Kichlot HaKol, Levado Yimloch Nora, Vehu Haya, Vehu Hove, Vehu Yeh Betifara. Adon Olam Asher Malach B'terem Kol Yetzir Nivra, Leit Nasa V'chefza Kol, Azai Melech Shemo Nikra, Ve'acharei Kichlot HaKol, Levado Yimloch Nora, Vehu Haya, Vehu Hove, Vehu Yeh Betifara. Adon Olam Asher Malach B'terem Kol Yetzir Nivra, Leit Nasa V'chefza Kol, Azai Melech Shemo Nikra, Ve'acharei Kichlot HaKol, Levado Yimloch Nora, Vehu Haya, Vehu Hove, Betifara, Vehu Haya, Vehu Hove, Betifara, Vehu Echad, Ve'ein Sheni, Lehamshilo, Leachbira, Bali Reishi, Bali Tachli, Velo Ha'oz, Ve'hamisra, Vehu Eli, V'chai Goali, V'tzuchev li, Be'et Zara, Vehu Nisi, Umanos li, Menat Kosi, Be'yam Ekra. Adon Olam Asher Malach B'terem Kol Yetzir Nivra, Leit Nasa V'chefza Kol, Azai Melech Shemo Nikra, Ve'acharei Kichlot HaKol, Levado Yimloch Nora, Vehu Haya, Vehu Hove, Vehu Yeh Betifara. Adon Olam Asher Malach B'terem Kol Yetzir Nivra, Leit Nasa V'chefza Kol, Azai Melech Shemo Nikra, Ve'acharei Kichlot HaKol, Levado Yimloch Nora, Vehu Haya, Vehu Hove, Betifara, Vehu Haya, Vehu Hove, Betifara. Beyado Afkid Ruchi, Ve'eiti Sham, Ve'aira, Ve'im Ruchi, Geviati, Adonai li, Ve'lo ira. Adon Olam Asher Malach B'terem Kol Yetzir Nivra, נשא וחץ הכל, אזי מלך שמו נקרא, ואחרי ככלות הכל, לבדו ימלוך נורא, והוא היה והוא הווה, והוא יהיה בתפארה. אדון עולם אשר מלך בטרם כל יציר נברא, לעת נשא וחץ הכל, אזי מלך שמו נקרא, ואחרי ככלות הכל, לבדו ימלוך נורא, והוא היה והוא הווה, בתפארה, והוא היה והוא הווה, בתפארה.
Yesh koach, Shabbat Shalom. Before we head outside to make Kiddush, just a welcome to our community Shaliach from Israel, Elad Bar Ilan, who is in the back and joining us. I don't know how soon you have to get back, but Elad should be a familiar face. He also does a Hebrew class with us. Just a reminder, I meant to say this earlier, you can be a member of Kilat Hadror with an overseas membership. You can be at a very reasonable rate, so talk with Rabbi Yande and let's go outside and make Kiddush. Bim bam bim bim bam bim 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 bam bim bam. How are you guys doing? The cantor tells me we want to schedule later in the afternoon next Friday, not in the morning. Yeah, we can make that work. We'll make that work. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, 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 Shabbat Shalom. If I can get a volunteer to help distribute the grape juice. Thank you, thank you. Atovu manayim sheverachim gam yachad. Ezi, Rav Yande. Shevrachim gam yachad nematovu. She's gonna sing. Yachad vaychu. Imlato asher asa bod bayom hashvim asher asa Peshoto, Vat Mikom Malakto, Ohim Lasot, L'chaim. Amen. Hava uvratzon hin chaltanu